A lot of supplements are kind of fun. You get to experiment on yourself. You get to say, whoa, that had a good muscle building effect. Whoa, that had a great fat burning effect. It's fun to experiment. That's what I do. I self-experiment all the time. And in the world of building muscle and losing fat and doing both at the same time, like, you're going to experiment with some things. So rather than just do a one-off video on one particular supplement where you get lost and you just confused, why don't I just tell you what I typically take? And this is not what I take daily. This is what's in my supplement cabinet. So sometimes I'll rotate things in, I'll rotate things out depending on what phase I'm in. And there's some that I take consistently, religiously. So we'll go ahead and we'll break them all down. We'll talk about what they do, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet so we don't just get too long-winded here. So let's go ahead and jump in. I put a link down below for a free trial of SuppCo. SuppCo is the first ever supplement companion app. This thing is really cool. And again, it's a free trial. So you just go to supp.co/Thomas, and that's a free trial. Plus, if you use that link, you will have access to the membership option when that comes available, which is pretty cool. That's like an exclusive membership option. But it's a totally free app. You can go check it out. Check it out. It is in beta, but it's still really awesome. Now, what it does is it has a catalog of 160,000 different supplements in it already. But think of it sort of at first like a way to manage all your supplements, your proper dosing. It's gonna say, hey, if you need to use this, here's the dose you should use. Give you reminders on when to take it. So if you have a big catalog of supplements that you cycle in or on and off of, it makes it a lot easier to manage. And also maybe you could set up separate little blocks for when you're in muscle building versus fat loss. But it also acts sort of like Kayak for supplements. You know that Kayak app or the website where you can shop all the different airlines? So it sort of works like that, except with supplements, in the sense that it helps sort through and helps you find the better quality supplements so you're not getting garbage, which is pretty cool. So all you do is you simply upload your stack, you put the supplements that you're using, and it kind of does the rest for you and helps you manage it. And if you don't know exactly what you're taking, they already have over 80 pre-planned supplement stacks. So you can have supplement plans that are just part of it for free anyway. So go ahead and give them a shot. Try that free trial of SuppCo. Again, go to supp.co/Thomas. Number one, I'm a big fan of trimethylglycine. I usually take 2 to 3 grams of trimethylglycine, particularly if I'm in a muscle building phase. Now, there are benefits to taking TMG or betaine if you're in a fat loss phase, but a lot of the evidence does demonstrate that because of the antioxidant effects of it, it has a powerful effect at helping you get more strength and more muscle. Now, the reason that it does this is because it is a methyl donor. So it helps decrease what's called homocysteine levels, which can lower inflammation, modulate inflammation. That may have a pretty big impact on how you can build muscle. But because it's a methyl donor, it also can help support creatine production, right? So it can actually help you increase strength. Now, there's other antioxidant ways in which it helps recovery. And there's some evidence that shows that there is decent muscle building. I think I did a video that was one of the strongest legal muscle builders that there is. TMG is pretty powerful, and you're seeing it in a lot of products these days. So I'd rather just take it individually so that I can isolate when it works and when it doesn't. And usually, if I'm in a muscle building phase and I take TMG, I find that my strength is better. So I don't take it all the time, although it's one of those that's perfectly fine to take all the time, in my opinion. The second one that I take almost every single day, this is one that comes with me when I travel, is theanine. It's one of those tried and true ones. And I usually take 400 milligrams, which is a pretty hefty dose of it. Now, theanine is interesting because it has a cooling effect in the body, so it really helps me sleep, right? But it also has a powerful effect on neurotransmitters. So some evidence suggests it can influence serotonin, dopamine, but one of the things that we do see in the literature is it influences GABA, okay? Gamma aminobutyric acid, which definitely leaves you feeling calmer, but it's non-sedative. It doesn't sedate you and knock you out. You just feel kind of calm. But where it's most promising with sleep is its effect to reduce disturbances. This is one of the most important things for me. Things wake me up, things that go bump in the night, things that scream about nightmares in the night, my daughter. Okay, these things wake me up. It doesn't make me sleep through my daughter's nightmares, which I wouldn't want to do anyway, but it does keep me from waking up over the little bumps and swishes of the sheets and things like that. It's cheap, it's highly effective, and the safety profile is great. Number 3, I usually take 1,000 milligrams of tryptophan, straight tryptophan before bed, especially if my protein intake's a little bit lower. So sometimes I don't get enough protein in, or some days I'm just doing a lower calorie diet, and it makes me a little edgier, and therefore I don't think I get as deep of sleep. That's a common thing, caloric restriction, poor sleep. Tryptophan puts me into a deeper sleep state. I stopped really paying attention to my aura and my whoop and stuff like that, and now I focus more on my sense of just how I wake up in the morning and my workout performance. How do I feel? Do I feel charged? Is dopamine where it needs to be? Things like that. I don't pay attention to the sleep scores because most of the time, I don't know, they seem wrong. Number 4, one that I don't take that often, but I do take if I'm feeling edgy, or if you're really in tune with yourself, you might know that like, hey, I'm feeling reactive, or I feel like things are triggering me a little bit more. This is where 5-HTP can definitely come into play. So 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan, it helps assist with like the 5-HT receptors, which are influenced by a lot of things like stress, or certain compounds can influence the 5-HT receptors. All these things that really can make us feel jumpy if we're depleted, it can help restore. Now here's the catch. I take like 25 milligrams, which is the lowest dose I can usually find on Amazon is like a 50 milligram, and I cut it in half. Okay, so I take a very low dose of 5-HTP, and I usually only do it when I need to. So I don't travel with it because it's usually not that important, but I have it on hand at home. Number 5 is one that now comes with me a lot more places, and that's Methylene Blue. Now Methylene Blue, you can put in your mouth and it turns your tongue all blue. I had Dr. Scott Schur talking about it. He's a serious expert in it. It is a mitochondrial aid, especially when it reacts with sunlight. So if you take Methylene Blue, it basically helps create more oxygen for the mitochondria to use, and it uses it more efficiently. So if you're exercising, it is one of the most powerful legal performance enhancers that someone can take. But I take it for other reasons. It helps my mood, it helps just mental clarity for me. But I don't take it all the time. It is absolutely as needed. And I usually just keep a couple little troches, little things that I can put in my gum in my bag, but I also just swallow it because I don't usually like having the blue mouth. So Methylene Blue, you can check out a video I did where we like really broke it down. It's a little bit step above a supplement. It's a little bit more intense, but it's definitely effective. Number 6 is something that makes its way into my diet pretty much every day, and that's protein powder. I don't need to spend time there. Whey protein isolate and whey protein concentrate, very similar in my book. One thing that I do though, post-workout, I combine whey protein with collagen, because now there's some evidence that suggests that collagen or whey protein could deplete or take away from connective tissue protein synthesis. So combining whey protein with collagen protein has a synergistic effect where you get muscle protein synthesis and you get collagen or connective tissue protein synthesis. Number 7, believe it or not, even though I talk about probiotics a lot, I don't take a probiotic every day. I take probiotics when I'm extra stressed, when I'm training really hard, when my sleep is not that good, or when my diet's not that good, or when I'm traveling. If things are going hunky-dory and good, I just rely on my fiber. So I'm different in that. Some people like to take a probiotic every day. I never want to be dependent on something. Truthfully, it's honestly, I know people have what they have to say. It's why I don't go on TRT right now. I have no problem with TRT at all. I just don't want to be hooked on something. I have no problem with peptides, nothing like that, because I don't become dependent on them. But anything like androgenic, or anabolic like that, I honestly, truthfully, I would. I just don't want to be stuck on something. So the point is I don't want to always be dependent on a probiotic if things are going good. But secondly, colostrum, like I really like colostrum when I need it. So if I'm immunocompromised or I just am getting over something, we know that gut barrier integrity, it's compromised there. So there's 2 things. I will use colostrum, or I will bring glutamine into the mix. Glutamine at like 5 to 10 grams if I'm in a heavy training block or I'm running a lot to aid in that gut lining support. Number 8, less of a supplement and something you probably have to get from a doctor to do it right, so I recommend you go that route. Peptides, BPC 157, TB 500, game changers for my recovery, but I only use them for like, I'd probably say a couple months total out of the year when I'm either overtrained, underslept, or I have injuries. I find that peptides are pretty darn interesting, and I find that if you have the right doctor that can explain them to you and you can use them properly, they can be hugely beneficial. But that's for me. I have to take that as like this is educational purposes only stance and just for me. Number 9, Yohimbine. Yohimbine is great for fat loss in my opinion. So I only use it when I need to really go all the way on fat loss. It is an alpha-2 adrenergic agonist. So it binds to an alpha-2 adrenergic receptor, which means that it's going to induce lipolysis, the mobilization of fat, even more so than caffeine. Combined with caffeine, and it's really powerful. Then you have to go burn it though. You can't just take it and magically burn it. You have to take it so it mobilizes fat, and then you go exercise or whatever and you burn it. I usually take 15 to 20 milligrams. They usually come in 5 milligram doses, and you can dose it appropriately and kind of titrate up or down. Definitely effective for fat loss, and I keep it on hand for me for that. I probably use it maybe 4 to 6 weeks total out of the year. Number 10, I'll utilize nicotinyl GABA. This is GABA that is bound to a B3. B3 will allow it to cross the blood-brain barrier and consequently allow GABA to influence the brain and change sort of the neurotransmission so we have a more calming sedative effect. I use those troches. Again, I use that company Transcriptions. No plug here, it's just saying it. It makes it so that I can kind of stick it in my gum and then I get like a calming effect from it. And again, I use those just as needed. I usually have a couple in my backpack. Number 11, I still cycle on and off with NMN. And occasionally, if I have like a guy that does my IVs come in, I'll get some NAD actually through an IV. I still consider that supplementation. NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, helps support NAD function within the body. So there is decent evidence that NMN and NR are both really good from a longevity perspective. But I notice my recovery is great on it. So when I have periods where maybe I'm training a little more than I normally do and I'm also having to remain cognitively alert, it makes quite a big difference there. Speaking of cognitive, I take a lot of creatine still. And I find that usually the more depleted or beat down that I am, the more creatine I use. It's that simple. If I'm feeling good, I'll baseline at like 3 to 5 grams per day, split evenly throughout the day. If I am feeling down, run down, under the weather, I'll bump into 10. I usually don't want to retain the extra water if I don't have to, but I split it throughout the day so that I don't end up having as much water retention, which is my own personal experience. And NO2 supplements. When I was talking to Chris Duffin's an interesting guy. He was telling me about how tissue quality makes such a difference in our power output and our velocity. And NO2 is just such an inexpensive way to volumize and get more blood flow. We get it from all these things like beets, like naturally occurring nitrates, so it's okay, in my opinion, to take a little NO2 supplement now and then, just avoid all the other garbage that goes with it. Number 13, this isn't a plug for them, but I'll use Momentous Fuel, which is the brand Momentous. I think it's isomultulose or some, I can't remember. It's basically like a cyclic dextrin. What that is it's a carbohydrate that absorbs fast, but is relatively low glycemic. So it gives me kind of some sustained blood sugar if I don't have time to eat. Now, I am not usually someone that eats before my workouts. If I'm planning to eat before a workout, I usually need at least 3 hours, which doesn't always work for me. So if I'm trying to go for extra fuel on board, I would have to get up at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. to be able to train at 6 a.m. digested. So I find that using something like a carb powder, like a cyclic dextrin, is actually a good use of carbs for me in that case because I can get it in like 30 minutes before. I don't do it often. I usually preserve carbohydrates for days where I'm gonna have extra or need extra oomph or need that extra performance. Number 14, I will cycle on and off of Tongkat Ali. Tongkat Ali at about 400 to 600 milligrams is a really effective dose for me. Gets my testosterone levels bumped up about 200 points, which is pretty interesting. I can go from 400 to 600 testosterone levels on Tongkat, but I also find that it doesn't affect my estrogen levels. Keeps my estrogen levels where I want them, which is, in my case, almost undetectable. I want my estradiol levels pretty darn low. I don't recommend everyone goes for them being undetectable, but that's just probably a result of my diet and my body fat percentage. I'm hoping that you're sticking around right now because number 16 is a major hack. If you consume caffeine, you need to try Rutaecarpine. Rutaecarpine is going to increase activity of CYP1A2 and CYP2E1, which is, these are the members of the cytochrome P oxidase family that help metabolize caffeine in the liver. So it helps get caffeine out of your system faster. So if I overdid the caffeine, maybe I had like an afternoon workout and I just wanted to have some caffeine before that workout. And I'm like, well, this is gonna affect my sleep. Boom, bring on board Rutaecarpine. It metabolizes the caffeine in about 3 hours versus 6 to 12. Makes it so that I sleep better and sleep deeper in spite of having more caffeine. And lastly, one that always makes my list, and that's going to be good old-fashioned taurine. Taurine is always on board. Oh, I don't want to forget magnesium. I almost forgot that. Taurine is always on board if I'm going to be pushing myself. Okay, if I'm doing any kind of longer endurance work, the evidence on time to exhaustion, like that 2,000 meter rowing trial, they shaved like 13 seconds or something off time by just adding simple taurine, like in, I think it was 3 or 4 grams. Anywhere from 1 to 6 grams of taurine is all you need to have a pretty significant performance effect. Not to mention very profound from a longevity perspective. And yes, of course, magnesium, because I run pretty hot, helps me stay calm, helps me sleep. Not to mention, it's just a mineral that I think a lot of us could stand to get more of in our diet that we simply do not. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. See you tomorrow.